As the years have gone on and I've gotten wiser, some might say, and I've had more life experience, I've also had an increase in the other type of thought while I'm out and about exploring the world. Wouldn't this make such a good reel? This would make a really good Instagram post. This would make a really good TikTok. I should make a YouTube video about this. I could post this on Facebook so my family can see it. Maybe I should start using WhatsApp statuses. Are there any other social media accounts that this would do really well on? These are the thoughts I started having rather than, wow, that's such a nice mountain. Wow, I love this city. Wow, I'm having such a good time with my friends. How wholesome. And then afterwards, I'd start feeling this like weird wave of guilt because I didn't film it. I chose to be in the moment. And because I didn't film it, I felt like maybe I was wasting a piece of content, almost like I was leaving potential money or potential followers on the table. Have you felt that? That nagging feeling that like every dinner, every hobby, every internal thought you might have is actually just like unharvested data? I think we've reached a point where we socialize, but at times we don't just socialize anymore. We almost perform something called visibility labor. We're at times falling into a system or into a cycle where we aren't just living, but we're managing our own brand that we didn't even start to begin with. Today, I want to talk about how I think we got to a point where everything is potentially monetizable and hence everything should be filmed, everything should be shared, from the days of your MySpace profile to the TikTok slot machine, and why the potential for fame is actually destroying our ability to just be. Also, excuse me, I'm starting to get really ill, so I will be sipping tea throughout this video. To understand how we got here, I wanted to take a look at what influence looked like before the internet. For decades, fame was really a bit of a closed shop. You had giant movie stars like Robert De Niro, George Clooney, Audrey Hepburn, famous rock stars, pop singers like Britney and Christina. I mean, this is the very like Western view of it, but you know, that was my childhood growing up. We had talk show hosts that we couldn't escape like Oprah and Ellen, and they were kind of on pedestals. We didn't have access to them. We observed them, and while Hollywood has always played with the idea of the accessible celebrity, it was still quite clear that these were people that were removed from us, that we got to watch and kind of go through life with them. I remember it quite clearly being a young girl and looking at Hollywood and it feeling really far away. And that wasn't something that turned me off from it. It just felt like something that was far away. The music industry felt miles away. It wasn't something that I could just like quickly kind of throw together in my bedroom. It was something that I'd have to get scouted and move to LA and all of this stuff. And so, as I mentioned, I never felt excluded from it. It just felt like a different world. But then a bridge started to form between our world and Hollywood. The it girl came around. Think Paris Hilton in the early 2000s. She essentially invented the famous for being famous blueprint and of course the selfie. She wasn't an actress in the traditional sense, but she turned her lifestyle into a product. I remember being obsessed with her TV show To Find a New Best Friend. Me and my sister would watch it all the time if it was on. I think it was on MTV. And so TV started to shift and reality TV started to come in. She was the prototype for, I think, the modern day influencer. She really proved that if you were just able to be seen enough, you could monetize your own existence. And so, as I mentioned, reality TV really kicked up a notch. I used to be obsessed with shows like A Shot at Love with Tila Tequila, The Hills, The X Effect, The City, Jersey Shore, My Super Sweet 16. What an amazing show that was. I always wanted to be on Super Sweet 16, but we definitely didn't have enough money for that, nor did we live in America. But I think we all always had this little like thought in our minds that while this was shown as reality TV, we knew a good chunk of it was also scripted. But then they would trickle in these other types of shows like Welcome to My Crib. And that really made us feel like we were getting an insight into the life of a celebrity. And if you're unfamiliar with Welcome to My Crib, first of all, you should totally watch it. Second of all, think of it as like the OG architectural digest, all those videos that are like 50 questions with Dakota Fanning, where they also show you the house. I still quote it now when people come to my house. I'm like, welcome to my crib, and like, do you want to see my fridge? Because that was like the best part of the show. I always wanted to see how celebrities were organizing their fridge. Felt like it was like a telltale sign of the type of celebrity they were. You get the idea. They're starting to bridge the gap. They're starting to show us that maybe we do have some insight into these celebrities. Maybe we can feel closer to these celebrities. They're a bit more approachable. They're a bit more like us. And as I mentioned, that is something they always played with, right? You want a relatable celebrity, but it was starting to become more and more. Now, if we look at the term influence, I did a little bit of digging, and I think it actually dates back to around the 1600s, originally describing a celestial occult power flowing from the stars to affect human fate, which honestly is a pretty accurate description of how the mysterious TikTok algorithm feels today. Historically, influence was a bit of a byproduct of being a gate-kept authority like a monarch, a philosopher, or a movie star whose power was rooted in a sense of this untouchable presence. However, around 2010, that title started to shift from maybe more of a trait to a formal job title, democratizing the idea that anyone with a smartphone could be a tastemaker. Nowadays, the term has changed into something far more transactionable. It's less about maybe having a unique perspective or viewpoint and more about that visibility labor, about being seen in the world or feeding the machine, and where your status is defined more by your metrics rather than your actual impact on the world. Even in the 2010s, you probably still needed a TV network to back you. You needed a paparazzi lens to get noticed. You needed a PR manager, someone who would call TMZ on you, in a way that celebrities kind of needed people like Paris Hilton, as horrible as he was, to get seen and get that publicity. The normal person, I don't think at this time felt the pressure to perform. We were influenced by these people and maybe felt pressure to start looking a certain way and things like that, but I don't think we felt the pressure to perform ourselves for the world, because there was still this barrier, which was almost like $1 million entry gate. The main way we really saw normal people try and make their way onto the scene was mostly through these competition shows like X Factor, America's Next Top Model, Got Talent, stuff like that. And then the gates were completely kicked open when social media came in.
Glued to a website called thefacebook.com.
Initially Friendster, now MySpace.
Just this week, she published her MySpace page.
The early days of social media, I don't think were about virality at all. I feel like they were clearly a step forward into getting people to connect with each other more, making human connection easier, the thing that's so fundamental to us as humans. I don't even think in the perspective of identity, it was about showcasing identity. It was just about using your identity to be found by maybe long lost friends. Initially, social media was so exciting. I was able to suddenly talk to friends that I made maybe like 2 years ago on a random camping trip somewhere that we then just lost touch. So I wanted to take a look at some of the early day social media that we saw, which of course I think it all kind of started with MySpace in 2003. This was kind of the digital bedroom. It was created for networking and music discovery. Your top 8 was your social currency. Influencers like the aforementioned Tila Tequila or Jeffree Star proved that you could build a massive following just by having an aesthetic and a good personality. When I say good, I don't mean morally good, I just mean entertaining to look at. But it still felt like a community. You weren't trying to reach like the entire world. You were trying to reach your friends and maybe they would tell their friends and like build a community that way. Then of course we had Tumblr in 2007.
Yahoo is set to buy blogging and networking site Tumblr. The deal is understood to be worth over $1 billion to be paid in cash.
This kind of felt like an era of like the digital diary. I feel like I was a little bit too young for the Tumblr time. I did have a Tumblr, but I definitely didn't use it as much as my sister, who's just a few years older. And while I don't want to describe Tumblr in like one sentence because it's impossible, and I think it was used in a lot of different ways and the way it was used did really evolve. When I think about Tumblr, I think it wasn't about showing your face, but it was about your vibe. People spent hours kind of crafting their niche aesthetics on Tumblr, grunge, pastel, fandom culture. And so it wasn't you necessarily that was a brand. It was more like having a mood that other people related to. It felt more anonymous, creative, and remarkably low pressure. I know some people were very, very, very protective over their Tumblr feed and over the Tumblr they crafted, but it felt like still more of like a creative outlet than a personal brand. Early YouTube came in 2005, broadcasting yourself. And so we had early stars like Smosh, Niga Higa, Kev Jumba, Prank Wars, like all of these types of channels. And a lot of them were just like kids in their basements with a webcam wanting to make funny videos. I think a lot of it was people that were already doing this type of stuff and making videos on like a little camera at home, and now they just had a way to share that with a wider audience. But I don't think it was about being able to share it with like millions of people. It was just fun to post it somewhere and not lose the footage. Initially, you saw no brand deals, no hooks, no like professional lighting. I think it was raw, and people posted because they had something something to say. They had something funny to show, not because they were chasing a career, because there literally wasn't an opportunity for a career on YouTube at the time. To me, initially, YouTube always felt like a little bit of having an insight into someone's like personal like stack of videos. You know, when you would be at home and you would go to the record player and you'd see like all the, maybe you've already got DVDs or maybe you've got the tapes, and you'd find like old tapes that had like written on them like Leonie's first steps or something. It felt like you were seeing that for someone else. It was very wholesome. It was really fun. And of course, we had early Instagram in 2010, a photography app initially. We used very heavy and ugly filters. I mean, do you remember the Valencia filter? We tried to make our lunches aesthetic. The mustaches were really in at the time. I had like a necklace with a mustache on it. I would draw mustache on my finger all the time. I think I recently, like, was it in maths? I think Rachel, she has like a mustache tattoo, and I was like, millennial right there. But it was a gallery. It wasn't a shop. We had early influencers on it who started more as like bloggers and enthusiasts of fashion rather than, again, personality brands that had to be seen by the world. And so everything felt a little bit segmented. You had MySpace for music, Tumblr for aesthetics, YouTube for laughs, and Instagram, I would say, started to mark a shift to your social media presence being something that allowed you to craft an image of yourself. As I mentioned, where people were very creative and careful to craft a specific Tumblr vibe for themselves, I still feel like that was more of a reflection of themselves through like almost a mood board, but Instagram really was a reflection of yourself through pictures of yourself. Did you take good pictures of yourself? Did you know how to edit nice pictures of yourself? Did you use the right filters, not the Valencia one? And it started to build a pressure and a pressure and a pressure. But of course, everything we knew about content creation, I think massively changed from 2007, which was the year that Google launched the YouTube Partner Program. Before 2007, uploading a video onto YouTube really was just more of a hobby. You didn't make money, you just wanted to make people laugh. But with the Partner Program, Google started sharing ad revenue directly with creators, and it was a massive revolutionary shift that initially was very much welcomed. You had people who were putting their blood, sweat and tears into these YouTube videos because they loved it so much. But so of course, for those people, the potential opportunity to now make some money with that was amazing. And initially, those people were actually very much looked down upon by the rest of the industry. They were like, oh, it's just someone in their room making videos. How much effort could that be? So we were all very much kind of on board with it initially. And I think also the fans of these channels like Smosh and Niga Higa, we were very vocal in our praise of these creators to be seen and respected for their work. And so for the first time in history, virality of just a normal person equaled income. It completely changed the perspective of what a YouTuber was. They went from kids wasting time in their bedrooms to legitimate small business owners. Suddenly teenagers were making more money than their parents just by potentially playing video games or doing makeup tutorials. And I don't say that in a belittling way. To make these videos, I know it takes a lot of time, but it also changed the viewing experience, right? Suddenly ads were being thrown our way, brand deals were now part of most videos, and slowly but surely, maybe YouTubers started to feel a little bit disconnected. You saw more and more that people would get frustrated with some of their favorite YouTubers because they didn't feel as relatable anymore. And that was a huge thing in like the late 2010s, that everyone was discussing relatability of YouTubers and how the fact that they were now making money, we weren't shopping at the same shops anymore. We weren't going to the same places anymore. Suddenly these YouTubers were living the life of celebrities, and maybe that was a bit less fun to watch. And so once YouTube proved that you could build like a multi-billion-dollar economy on the backs of everyday people, the floodgates obviously opened. Every other platform realized that if they wanted to keep creators on their app and not lose them to YouTube, they had to dangle the same financial carrot. Snapchat launched its Spotlight Fund, which still is a mystery to me, but is paying out like millions of dollars a day to people who are making viral Snapchat videos. I have to hold my hands up here and say I deleted Snapchat about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I just couldn't cope anymore with the like 1 a.m. texts from random people like, you up? Like, it was very clear to me at some point what Snapchat was being used for, and it was just not my vibe. Instagram introduced creator bonuses and subscriptions, and TikTok, of course, rolled out its creator rewards program. And then on top of that, you had all these massive brands who were realizing, hey, if we do a brand deal with these influencers, we give them a bit of money, they have like 2 million people that follow them, that's a way better investment than trying to get like an ad slot on the TV somewhere at prime time. And so this is exactly where the pressure that we feel today was born. Because now we aren't just uploading a video for fun or self-expression. And while I am uploading this because I think it's fun and it's a fun way to express myself, there is definitely an element of like Could I make money with this? Would this video make money? Will I go viral with this? Could my life change overnight? We know in the back of our minds that the right 15-second clip could potentially pay our rent. We stopped seeing social media as a digital playground or maybe a digital album for the world to see, and we started seeing it more as a lottery where we're forced to buy a ticket every single day. I mean, you literally are reminded every single day that you could be making money on TikTok. You could go viral on TikTok, but I'll get into that a little bit. First, I want to talk about how we saw the beginning of like the copycat wars between all of these social media platforms. The platforms stopped trying to be unique at a certain point, and they really tried to just be everything at the same time. I think we started to see it when Instagram stole stories from Snapchat. I remember when first Instagram stories came out, I was like, I don't need this. I don't want to look at this. And now it's basically the only reason I open Instagram. They saw Snapchat's ephemeral growth and decided they wanted a slice of that pie. And then Facebook took it, and then LinkedIn tried it, and suddenly every app has some sort of circle at the top of their screen for stories. And then came TikTok, which changed everything, making a For You page an internet-based algorithm rather than a follower-based one. It proved that you could go from 0 to 1 million views overnight if you just made the right video. What is that right video, you may ask? They will never tell you. The YouTube algorithm started getting really complicated, and a lot of YouTubers were talking about it. And so maybe TikTok was the right way, and we saw a huge shift in content making. We went from long form content to short form content. Suddenly it was even easier to go viral with just a little video of yourself like this, rather than a sit down where you have to edit and you're throwing things in and sounds in. And I think personally, maybe controversial, but I think a little bit of creativity went out of the window. And I think a really good example of seeing this shift is Vine. Such a great app to start with. You had 7 seconds to make a really funny video. So people got really creative with it. People had to think, how can I deliver a punchline in 7 seconds that's funny, that people want to watch? Not to make money, but just to be seen as funny. But of course, Vine died a very painful death, and all these people moved over to YouTube, and their content changed massively. Now, for some content creators, I think it was really fun. I still watch a lot of Drew Gooden, Danny Gonzalez, but for some, maybe less so. And so Instagram panicked and launched Reels, YouTube panicked and launched Shorts, which both, I swear, are just re-uploads of TikToks at this point. When someone's like, I will not have TikTok, but I will send you 50 Instagram Reels. And I'm like, they're the same TikToks I'm seeing every day. And so now every platform is basically just a version of TikTok in some way or another. And this is where the samification of the internet happened. Every platform uses the same infinite scroll and the same short form video, and the diversity of our digital lives dies. We aren't really choosing a platform anymore based on our needs. We're just feeding different versions of the same machine, and we're all jumping onto the same platforms so we can relate to people and watch the same stuff, and then we can talk about it at work or talk about it at school, and it's just a bit boring now. And so of course this brings us to, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous parts of modern social media, which is the potential of virality. Because TikTok made fame anyone's game, it created a bit of a mental trap. If you could go viral, first of all, why haven't you yet? And second of all, why aren't you posting every single moment of your life? That's such a wasted opportunity. We've been conditioned to think that if we just post enough snippets of our life, our tea, coffee, our workout, our venting sessions, especially our venting sessions, eventually we'll hit the lottery. Turns life into an absolute slot machine. Every post is a pull of the lever and just trying to see what are the numbers gonna do today. And this is what I mentioned earlier. I see this TikTok growth advice all the time on my For You page. Post 3 times a day, use this sound, don't use this sound. It matters when you post, it doesn't matter when you post. Are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Don't be afraid to post, just spam TikTok as much as you can, aka show as much of your life possible, and one video will go viral at some point and maybe you'll make $10 off of it. It's an absolute recipe for burnout. And I see comments from people on these videos saying I have been doing this, I am doing this, I've been posting consistently for a year and I still only have 2,000 followers. What am I doing wrong? Since when is 2,000 people a failure? In the real world, 2,000 people is a crowd, but of course now where it's so easy to get 1 million followers and where it's so easy to, join the Creators Rewards program, why do you only have 2,000 followers? Why do I only have 2 followers? Am I not funny enough? Am I not pretty enough? Do I have the right friends who can help me make funny videos? Do I have a friend group that other people want to look at, and hence we can make videos together and then we can feed each other social? It's never ending. And the algorithm truly makes you feel like you're shouting into a void because you aren't hitting viral numbers, and we've lost the ability to value connection because we're more obsessed with reach. We don't care if we have 2,000 followers who actually watch our stuff and like our stuff and comment on our stuff and we can talk to. No, because 2,000 people is not enough, right? It's so sad. I love the fact that I've got 2,000 followers on YouTube and I read all of your comments, and I love that some of you interact with like my community posts, and I'd rather have that, I think, at the moment than like a million followers where I just can't keep track of who everyone is and what they like and what they don't like. This feels like a really nice little community right now. And of course, as someone who, as I always mention, works in cybersecurity, I also see the technical side of this. The platforms literally are designed to keep you in a state of like algorithm anxiety. Could the next video be that dopamine hit? Could my next video be someone else's dopamine hit? And so of course they want you to keep producing videos because you're producing data and you are the product. Your data is the product. And I'm not going into like conspiracy theory territory here, but your data is what they want. They then sell it off to other companies to you so they can target ads to you, so they can market stuff to you. And that's like the new economy of the world, right? Your personal data. And I'm not saying that to scare you about your data being out there. That would be an entirely separate video. It's just to get you thinking about why they are so keen to have you on these platforms. It's not out of like the goodwill of their hearts that they created the creator rewards program because they think you should get paid for your effort. No. There's a very specific reason behind all of that, harvesting your data. They use this intermittent reinforcement, the same psychology that we use in gambling, right? To keep you hooked on the potential of your next hit. Suddenly one of your videos will get maybe like 800 views instead of 200. Maybe we'll get 2,000 views instead of 70. And you think, okay, I should use that. Let me post like crazy for the next few days to try and keep that going. I'm feeling the same thing. The last few YouTube videos for me have been doing really well. So I'm like, need to make sure I do more of those. Hence, it's currently 7 a.m. and I'm filming this before I go off to work. And the data is terrifying. There was a burnout report this year that showed that like 91% of adults are experiencing some form of extreme pressure and stress. And specifically amongst 18 to 24-year-olds, nearly 40% have started taking time off for their mental health, yet they at the same time feel like they can't discuss it. And while there's a variety of reasons why you would need to take time off for your mental health, we can't sit here and pretend like social media isn't one of them. We are truly living in a burnout economy. We're expected to work on 9 to 5s, then come home and work a second shift as a content creator just to stay relevant, and it's incredibly unsustainable. I really think we should start reclaiming the like unsellable parts of our lives. We just go on a hike and let the view be a view. Let it turn into a cool memory. Anyway, your value is not tied to your insights tab. Your life isn't a constant like PR strategy. You are allowed to exist without being perceived by an algorithm. You are allowed to detox from social media. That doesn't make you a difficult person to get a hang of. So let's stop treating our lives as like a 24/7 audition for a potential job that we never even applied for to begin with, but some, I guess, would argue we did simply by just being born. And so I want to hear from you. Do you feel like a pressure to post? Do you feel a pressure maybe to engage with your favorite influencers because as a viewer, you feel the pressure to be a source of income for them, and of course you like them, so you want to provide that for them? Haven't even touched on that in this video. One interesting thought. We should talk about that. Do you miss the days of having just like a profile song? Do you miss the days of like shitty Instagram filters? I sometimes really do. I was going through like my first few posts on Instagram recently. It was so funny. As I mentioned, a lot of mustaches. Let's talk about it authentically in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'm aware I'm posting like a little bit less. It's more like life outside of this has just become very busy. Work is taking up a lot of time. I really need to head off in a minute and go there. I'm about to go on holiday on Wednesday for a week, and then it's my birthday. So I'm trying to still post like once a week, but I'm also, as I mentioned, trying not to put too much pressure on myself and, really do it every Wednesday and Friday if at the moment it's just not always feasible. And I just want to make videos because I have an idea, not because I have to post a video twice a week or once a week. I hope you really enjoyed this one. I genuinely, all jokes aside, really want to see what you think about this topic, really want to engage with people about where their thoughts are on all of this. Have an amazing start to your day, rest of your day, start to your sleeping schedule, and I'll see you in the next one.